It's time to tighten up those lineups. Waiver-Wire Monday and the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast is back to make sure you're dominating your fantasy hockey leagues. The top news from around the league, Connor McDavid back, and of course, Monday's big time bets. Thank you for joining us for the Monday episode. Let's tap in and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're in full gear for the fantasy hockey season, and that's why you're tuned in, tapped into your source for fantasy hockey news and daily degenerate gambling breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And I am joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday. Steele in here breaking down all of the top news that you need. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Steele, weekends are always busy for us. Mondays are important. You can't ever overlook the importance of, and however your waiver wire breaks down, bidding. Do you have you might have a ranking. It might be week to week. You might have only a certain amount of moves waiver wire wise. This week, Steele, I got outbid my keeper league. I got outbid on both players I was going for by $1 on both players. I was going for Oliver Bjorkstrand, and I was going for that Poitras kid in Boston, and I got outbid by $1 on each. So waiver wire is important. We're going to break down our top targets. We're going to break down Monday's bets. But let's start, Steele, with some important injury news. Thomas Chabot, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll get there. But very quickly, Connor McDavid is back. This is clearly a situation in Edmonton that I have been very close to for betting reasons, but all fantasy owners out there are close to for a number of obvious reasons. This Edmonton Oilers team has looked very, very bad. I just said to you off air, there's so much rumblings coming out of Edmonton. Most of it's chatter, but I've been very clear that Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are not going to stick around for much longer in Edmonton. Connor, look, contract situations aside, Steele, they're not going to put up with this losing. So let me turn it over to you. He's back against the Flames on Sunday. A couple of poor performances again from the Oilers over the last number of days. Very quickly, what's your take on what's happening continuously here in Edmonton? And then we can talk very quickly about Thomas Chabot.
Well, this is a big game for both the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames, two teams that are just in an absolute slump right now. So maybe this could be a turning point for one of these organizations against, a big game against a rival. So if one of these teams can come out hot and get a big win against the other and kind of just get this, kind of turn the ship around, like I was saying a couple episodes ago, get in the right direction from where they have started this first month of October, because it's been an absolute brutal showing from both of these clubs right now in Alberta. But for Connor McDavid, I'm very excited for him to get back. He's been on the IR for the last week for all fantasy teams. I have him on one of my fantasy teams. I'm getting absolutely destroyed in both of our casual and competitive league right now. I'm losing 9-1 and then 0-11. So I'm getting absolutely destroyed this week. I need Connor McDavid back in my lineup very, very quickly.
Respect.
But yeah, this is like you said, these are some of the best players, if not the best two players in the league right now. And if Edmonton can't correct this properly and kind of get them in a comfortable position moving forward, McDavid and Draisaitl aren't going to stay here for their entire career.
Edmonton loses 7-4 to Edmonton and then get blanked 3-0 by the Rangers in the follow-up game, 1-5-1 to start the season. And we can't stress enough on this show, Steele. You and I have to give takes on every single team and every single situation. But you can't help but feel that this Edmonton Oilers situation, if they don't right the ship in a very, very fast manner, things are going to get out of hand at Edmonton. And I'm not saying Connor McDavid's starting to demand trades, but like you just said, these two players in Draisaitl and McDavid are far too good to be dealing with this kind of mediocrity for this long. Anyhow, very quickly, Thomas Chabot, Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
The Ottawa Senators, to me, have been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation still. One night they look really good. The
Yeah.
other night they're getting dusted. And man, I really like the makeup of this top 6, top 9 forward group. I really like it a lot. Ridley Gregg is looking pretty good. Mathieu Joseph is looking solid. Claude Giroux, the balance is nice up front. But here we go with Senators, Chabot, 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured hand. The clear weakness on this team is the blue line. Zub is also hurt. I think, was it Brandstrom got knocked out of the game the other day? That was a scary play. So now all of a sudden, the weakness of this team is going to be very much put under the microscope. Hit me with your take on the Ottawa Senators, a team that you and it makes me hot under the collar. But hit me with your take here on this one, because when they're on their game, they can score goals.
Well, I think you can draw comparisons to the Ottawa Senators from the Edmonton Oilers, maybe not to the extent of how bad the Oilers have been, but they have not. The Senators have not been getting great goaltending either from Anton Forsberg and Jonas Korpisalo. So there's that perspective to take in mind as well when we talk about the Ottawa Senators. They've got a great forward group in the top 6. Obviously, some young guys in Joseph and Ridley Gregg on the third line as well. With these injuries, though, to the Ottawa Senators, it reminds you a lot of how the Edmonton Oilers are struggling on the blue line as well. They're not getting it from Darnell Nurse. They're not getting it from Matthias Ekholm. They're not getting it from Evan Bouchard defensively, that is. He's getting it offensively. But now with these injuries to Ottawa, they're without Thomas Chabot. They're without Artem Zub. They're without Eric Brandstrom. It's hurting their blue line right now. And obviously losing Thomas Chabot for the next 4 to 6 weeks puts a lot of more pressure on Jacob Chychrun, who also struggles from injury. So you don't want to overextend him on the ice and putting him on the
he's looked good though.
He has looked good. He's Jake Sanderson's looked great.
Yes.
Jacob Chychrun's looked fantastic out there. But you just don't want to put too much stress on Jacob Chychrun, another guy who has struggled with injuries.
Most perhaps intriguingly is Chabot leads this team in ice time per game at 24 plus minutes a night. It's one of those injuries that, I think what did he have? 3 assists in 7 games so far this season.
3 assists, he had 7 games.
He's an important fantasy asset, of course, but just to the success of this Ottawa team, Steele, this is a tough one for them to bounce back from. I think they will be able to hang in there just because of the balance that I talked about in that top 6. Let's see what happens, though. And very quickly, you know what? Let me drop my top waiver wire target right now before the break, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a couple of players that you and I are going to have a nice conversation about. And let me start with Filip Hronek. There's a lot of players, Steele, on today's episode that I think you and I can stand by our takes that have been players that we are high on. Filip Hronek might not exactly be filling out all of those peripherals as much as you'd like, but he's got 7 assists, plus 9, 8 penalty minutes, 16 shots. And over the last 5 games, he's got points in 4 out of 5, 5 assists. This is a player on the Vancouver Canucks Steele that doesn't get nearly enough credit. And 1 hit each game, 1 block each game. You want to see more. But the fact that he is getting it done right now at both ends of the ice effectively, he is a player that I need to take a look at. And the Vancouver Canucks, by the by, not looking too bad right now. Casey DeSmith and Thatcher Demko getting it done in a big way. And I think also it has a piece to do with Quinn Hughes. Tyler Myers is looking really good, turning back the clock. And Filip Hronek, all of a sudden, the Vancouver Canucks have a couple of good D-men on their hands.
Yeah, and we know that this Vancouver Canucks team is an offensive capable team. Andre Kuzmenso, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, and when you have 2 defensemen in Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek who can be playmakers and pass the puck and have those guys who they can actually finish as well. I know it was a big struggle in Detroit for a long time. It was only pretty much Dylan Larkin out there who could do anything. And that kind of what hindered maybe Filip Hronek's career. But now that he's in Vancouver and you've got these other weapons that he can use, pass the puck up to, and even get secondary assists, it's been great so far for Filip Hronek.
48% owned on Yahoo Steele. I just wanted to mention 54 on ESPN. The Canucks play 3 times this week: Preds, Sharks, and Stars. And the Stars are stingy, but the Preds and Sharks allowing a lot of goals. So I like this week for Filip Hronek, coming off a very good weekend as well. we're coming off a very good week, and you can continue to check us out Monday through Friday. Make sure you tap into the pod. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you've ever had a frustrating ticket buying experience, you never need to do that again. You need to be getting the Game Time app. Anytime you need a ticket to your favorite event, concerts, shows, stand-up comedy, sporting events, it has you covered on the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of an event near you, and views from your seat from the venue. Game Time is the app that Steele and I love using. I just bought some tickets from my friend out west, going to see the Flames and Canucks. Steele, that's one of those games that you probably would have been at if you were still out west, but you need to be checking out the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. And Flip, Waiver-Wire targets, one of the best episodes that we can provide every single week on Monday, just helping everybody out there. Again, the Waiver-Wire is your friend. And we got the same player on our waiver wire targets for this week, and that is Ryan Strome of the Anaheim Ducks. Dual eligibility, left wing, right wing position. But it's been unbelievable what Ryan Strome and some of these Ducks players are doing. You know, originally I wanted to talk about Frank Vatrano. He has 2 hat tricks already on the season. He's tied for second in goals. He has 29 shots, 12 blocks, 16 hits. But I can't talk about him because his ownership has been skyrocketing the last week. 63% on Yahoo, 71% on ESPN. If he's out there, go and get him. But that's why I want to talk about his teammate and line mate, Ryan Strome, who's only owned at 12% right now. 2 goals, 10 points total on the season. He is on a 4-game point streak right now. 7 points in those 4 games, 14 shots, 5 blocks, 6 hits. So not as high as Frank Vatrano's peripheral stats right now, but because they're playing together on that second line, they're feeding off of each other's production right now. So it's really good start in those categories. He's a very sneaky player, Flip. You know, you don't really see his game coming up until it just kind of pops up one day. And even just looking at his stats over the last 4 years, finishing between 40 to 60 points. So very consistent in that range is where he's comfortable at. And again, getting some real nice chemistry on that second line with Vatrano and Mason McTavish right now. So Anaheim Ducks playing some good hockey. They got 3 games this upcoming week: Penguins, Coyotes, and Golden Knights. So Golden Knights will be a tougher matchup, but the way the Coyotes and Penguins are playing, or the Penguins are kind of lopsided, Coyotes are in lopsided scoring games as well. So those 2 could be very advantageous.
He also can be a very chippy player at times.
Yeah.
When we look this up, the penalty minutes, 79, 69, 39 the year before. This is a player that can mix it up. He's not obviously been doing it as much this season, but for whatever reason, Steele, and you would have liked this. We were at the golf simulator bar on Saturday. The Philadelphia Ducks game were on, and everyone in the family knows your boy's a little bit of a degenerate watching the Ducks Flyers game on a Saturday. But this Ducks team has it going on right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go down and pat my back again on Lucas Dostal. He's looking real good. My boy, Lucas Dostal, is going to be the number 1 very soon in Anaheim, and I'm going to profit from that one nicely. Ryan Strome and that top 6 is forming some nice chemistry. There's some nice balance. Mason McTavish was a 3rd overall pick. Let's not forget Ryan Strome, as much as he is a 30-year-old, good shout out to a good Mississauga boy and a Niagara Ice Dog product. I love me some Niagara products, Steele. Ryan Strome is getting it done at the age of 30 years old, and 2 goals and 8 assists. And what's going on in the top 6 in Anaheim? It's one of those situations that right now, week to week, Steele, you and I both had our eye on this player, and it's the kind of thing that you want to ride that energy, and clearly the Ducks have it. 3 games this week: Penguins, Yotes, and the Golden Knights. Of course, the Penguins are starting to look a little bit better. The Coyotes, hey, whoa, your boy early, Steele, come on. The Coyotes are looking good, and then Vegas to close out the week. So it's not exactly the easiest of matchups for this Ducks team, but I got to be taking a look at Ryan Strome definitely on this
Yeah.
week to week while the Ducks are feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, very advantageous first two games besides finishing off the week for the Vegas Golden Knights. I got two players actually from this
Hit me.
one team. I want to start off with Justin Barron, though. I had
Hold
to
on.
do
Can I just interrupt? That
Yeah,
hoodie you're wearing is straight fire. Is that a Space Jam hoodie?
it is a Space Jam hoodie.
My
Got it at
man, I might need to get that in the 3XLT for the big boy. I just needed to
walking
show you
down the
that love.
street, saw it on the window, and I was like,
Oh,
had to have
dang.
it.
That's
Absolute
fire.
vintage style right
Okay,
here.
I just felt like you needed that little bit of love for that shirt. And
Thanks,
by
man.
the
I
way,
appreciate
people,
that.
if you're not seeing Steele in full HD, make sure you head over to YouTube and smash that
Yeah.
subscribe button. We're here
Yes,
Monday through
sir.
Friday. There's a quick plug. My bad, Steele. Turn it over for you. I just thought you needed your flowers on this fit.
Nah, man, I appreciate that.
Got you.
I'll accept the compliments whenever they're
Hey,
thrown my way. But
there you go.
let's get back to the waiver wire targets. I got two players from
Hit
this
me.
one team. I had to do a double take on the NHL standings this morning. Montreal Canadiens in third in the Atlantic, 5-2-1. I want
Whoa.
to start off with Justin Barron right now.
Yes.
He's been absolutely great the last 5 games since he's gotten cracked into the lineup. He's only played 51 games in the NHL so far throughout his career. Was a first round draft pick back in 2020. Again, didn't get into the lineup until game 4 this season, but so far through 5 games, he has 3 goals, 6 shots, 10 blocks, 7 hits, 8 penalty minutes, and a +3. So right now he's getting it done.
Steele.
He's a very smart hockey player. Jumps into the rush quickly, gets into an open area.
He's looked great.
He's looked great right now. Still very young. He's turning 22 in a week and a half, November 15th, or I guess 2 weeks, turning 22 on November 15th. But I love what he's learning right now with these other guys on the Montreal blue line and playing a lot, with another big surprise in Mike Matheson. He's partnered on the top D pairing with Mike Matheson, and Matheson's looks really good. Justin Barron looks good.
Hey.
And Montreal's defensive group isn't looking too shabby either. So I like what I've seen from Justin Barron. If you don't mind, I just want to mention this player as well.
If you have the same guy from Montreal again, it's Jake Allen. Okay.
Jake Allen.
I have another Canadian as well.
I got to talk about Jake Allen, 20% roster right now on Yahoo. He has yet to lose a game. Again, short sample size so far, but yet to lose a game. He's 3-0-1. And these are his games right now: 37 saves, 31 saves, 36 saves, 42 saves in those 4 games. Montreal gives up the second most shots per game right now, 36.5 shots per game. And I know you and I have spoken about Sam Montembeault, ready to take that next step for the Montreal Canadiens. I still believe that to be true. But man, did Jake Allen press pause on that conversation real quick to this hot start to the season. He's not ready to give up the crease. 2.63 goals against average, a .930 save percentage. And again, Montreal Canadiens also have 3 games this upcoming week: Golden Knights, Coyotes, and Blues. So, hey, man, you got to ride with the hot hand right now, and Jake Allen, who's getting it done right now in Montreal.
Caden Primo also getting some looks there. So I am also having a look. It's honestly, Steele, I love when you and I are serendipitous like this, because right here at 1% on ESPN and 1% on Yahoo, as a young defenseman who is clearly comfortable putting up offensive numbers.
Yeah.
And again, like you pointed out, 51 games in the NHL, 5 this season, 51 games in the NHL, 20 points by a young blue liner. Maybe we should be paying more attention because he's actually proven that he can provide. And now all of a sudden, Steele, this Montreal team, Mike Matheson, offensively is looking like a wizard. Sometimes on the back end, defensively, he looks like he maybe need to take a few more laps around the ice at practice. But offensively, he's looking like a wizard.
Yeah.
And this is what happens, though, when your team plays with confidence. Cole Caulfield is getting it done. Nick Suzuki breaks the monkey off of his back and is starting to score a little bit here. Justin Barron, as a 6'2", 200-pound Halifax, Nova Scotia boy, was right there as my honorable mentions. And very quickly, before I get to my last favorite, you know what? We can come back to it after the break, my last favorite. But just quickly, I wanted to show love to Sean Monahan, looking very comfortable on that third line in Montreal. And I wanted to bring Oh, I just pooched myself at the tab, but here we go. Third line in Montreal, Tanner Pearson and Brendan Gallagher, both guys performing a little bit as well. But how about most importantly, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Matheson, and Monahan on that top power play along with Pearson? Have a look at Monahan this week. He's looking good to me as well, Steele. And before I finish, they have the Knights, the Coyotes, and the Blues 3 times this week. Monahan only owned at 17% in Yahoo and 9 at ESPN. Go have a look at him this week if you're looking for a little bit of offensive boost. He doesn't really fill out the Cats, but I'm liking Monahan and how he's performing right now. I got one more player. Hit me after the break, and let's get to those bets, baby.
Monahan and Tanner Pearson have been nice surprises to the start of this season for the Montreal Canadiens. Tanner Pearson has been one of those guys that has been on my watch list the last week and a half. So I'm going to continue to keep my eye on him. I've got one player as well. You've got one last player for waiver wire targets, and then we'll get to big time bets. But this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, which Flip and I suggest and urge you to do so because it's the best app out there is no better time to get into the action right now. The app is safe and easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And of course, our fan favorite, the same game parlay, NHL, NBA, NFL. We are doing those same game parlays every single night. Because, like Flip says, we are degenerate gamblers over here. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season right. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time is when you can find all of our episodes. And again, please hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support. Flip, before we get to big time bets, one last waiver wire target for each of us. I'll throw it over to you. Which player are you looking at last?
I think you're going to like this one, Steele. And this might be one of the kind of players that I think coming out of his draft here in 2017 in Casey Mittelstadt at 8th overall, there was some very high expectations in terms of what he might be able to bring offensively. And I know 77 games, his first real season in the NHL, 25 points, not impressive. But this is a Buffalo team that has really been straight up and down garbo until the past couple of years, Steele. So I'm really buying into Casey Mittelstadt. Also, you and I always record early, but his performance on Sunday, the patience he's starting to show in the offensive zone with the puck is now starting to show me that he is hitting his stride at 25 years old. I believe now he's up to 8 points on the season, 2 goals and 6 assists. That's before the end of this game on Sunday. But to me, Steele, looking at this Buffalo Sabres team as well, and I have the lines up here in a sec. Casey Mittelstadt is my favorite ad for this week. He's now centering JJ Peterka and Jeff Skinner, and this is a line that's producing. Peterka was a guy that you and I both had our eye on for the last year and a half. They have so much young offensive talent that take this in, Steele. Who's been their most offensive, consistent piece since joining them? Probably Alex Tuck. He's playing on the third line with Dylan Cousins and Yost. So I'm loving Mittelstadt up the middle in with Peterka and Skinner. He has performed over the last number of games. And before I'm done, because I hope you like this one, Steele, 18% on Yahoo, 6% on ESPN, and 2 games against Philly this week. Go out there and get you some Casey Mittelstadt and thank us later.
Speaking of Philly, that's my last player on the waiver wire target. It will be Travis Sanheim, defenseman of the Philadelphia Flyers. And another team that has been very surprising to start this season so far. Philadelphia 4-3-1. They've lost
coming down to earth a little bit, though.
Yeah, coming down to earth. They lost their last game, but nonetheless, Travis Konechny and Travis Sanheim are getting it done for the Philadelphia Flyers. Carter Hart's look good as well. And Philly has been waiting for this kid to get going
Yes.
for a long time. And I think he might be finally arriving this season.
Yes.
Let's not forget this kid was a first round 17th overall
Boom.
draft pick back in 2014. It's almost been
Boom.
10 years since he's been drafted.
Boom.
And when he got drafted, you were
Mm.
very excited about this draft pick as well because he had
Mm-hmm.
stellar back-to-back seasons in the WHL from
Yes.
2014 to 16, 133 points in 119 games in the WHL in that time.
Yep.
But when he came into the NHL for the Flyers, he couldn't exactly transfer that over to the NHL level right away. He's a little bit of a late bloomer, it seems like.
Mhm.
And I love what I've seen so far from him and the Philadelphia Flyers to start the season. 8 points in 8 games. He's gone from averaging just under 20 and a half minutes last year to 26 minutes of average ice time
Wow.
this season.
You
in
know
the
I
first
love that.
8 games. So that's plenty of more ice time for Travis Sanheim, who's 27 years old, to really get into the game and drive from the defensive zone into the offensive zone. And I love what I'm seeing from him. Again, 8 points, 21 shots, 14 blocks, 5 hits. He's on the first power play unit. He's on the first penalty kill unit. And
Yes.
Philly expects big plays and a big presence from Sanheim. And so far, he's absolutely delivering them and really getting this team on the back end very structured.
When I saw the graphic that you put together, by the way, shout out to you for the graphics. Shout out to the Locked On Network. If you're not seeing all of our new fire graphics, we're bringing them every single episode. You got to head over to YouTube and check that out. But Steele, I don't know if you noticed this, and I'm not saying that you're on every single waiver wire transaction. You and I are in 3 or 4 different leagues.
Yeah.
But in both our competitive league and the casual league, run the clock back 2 weeks and see who your boy picked up on the waiver wire. I jumped on Travis Sanheim 1 game into the season, and I have him on both
That's a good pickup.
on the same day I scooped him. And what's interesting is I just got offered a trade today for Travis Sanheim. Bring it up maybe tomorrow's episode, but let's just say I declined it because everything of you just said. And as much as the Flyers have obviously overachieved, they're a better team.
Yeah.
Courier and Atkinson, I don't think either you or I could have predicted how important and how good these two very banged up veterans, especially Couturier, would come back and be quality. They're looking solid. It's balanced out their young pieces nicely. Steele, episode's getting long in the tooth. Shall I ream off my 3 bets, or would you like to?
You go ahead. You start us off.
Giddy up, because right now, Steele, Monday night isn't usually this loaded. 9 games on the NHL betting board, and I'm taking a look at a few of these angles here, and the first one I'm taking a look at is this Carolina-Philadelphia Flyers game. Nice segue. Wow, we're getting good, Steele. In their last 10 games against Philadelphia, 8-2-0. I know that we just talked up Philly and some of their pieces over the last 4 games. They've been a little bit shabby, back to their old ways. And I know one goal loss against Dallas and Vegas. Then they beat the pants off of your Minnesota Wild. I'm sure
they did.
not feeling that one. But then the Ducks lay a 7-piece on them. I think they're going to start to come back down to earth is the first point I'm making. And the fact that Carolina is 8-2 in their last 10 against them, including 7-0 overall, 7 straight wins against Philly. Give me the Carolina Hurricanes on the money line minus 190, and then very quickly, Steele. Second bet, Tampa Bay Lightning are at home against the Seattle Kraken. I know the Kraken have started to right the ship. That's not a boat or an ocean or a Kraken joke. But Tampa, in their 4 games against this franchise, 4-0. And I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning on the money line very simply. Jonas Johansson is looking really good, Steele. Oh, my goodness. Don't ever – what did I say this start of the season? Not enough – and you backed me up, so I'm not saying you were wrong. Not enough respect on this Tampa Bay Lightning team. People were starting to write off Victor Hedman. My man's beast moding. He's an early favorite for the Norris. Anyway, Tampa, money line at home. They're also amazing at home. It's a fortress. Minus 155 on the money line. And for some reason, Steele, looking how good the Anaheim Mighty Ducks have been over their last couple of games. You like how I checked me there? The puck line right now is playing minus 125 for the Ducks on the puck line, plus 1.5. The Pittsburgh Penguins haven't been dusting aside many teams. 4-5-1, the Anaheim Ducks against the Pittsburgh Penguins over the last 10. Loving this one as my lock of the night. Anaheim rolling right now.
Yeah.
Goaltenders feeling it. Vetrano feeling it. Give me the Ducks on the puck line, -125 as my lock of the night against the Pens.
I absolutely love when we have all three of our picks
No.
different. No.
Oh,
It's a different. I love when we have
okay.
different picks, all three of them, because this gives me a good variety of what
Wait,
we're looking at for a
side
parlay.
bets?
No. No side
Okay,
bets,
okay,
no
okay,
side bet. I'm just excited that we have
okay.
all three different picks here because I like all three of yours. So I'm
Thank
definitely
you.
going to be putting them into a parlay or single
Much
bets
love.
just itself. But I like these three picks as well. I'm going to start off with the Rangers Jets game under 5.5 at +100. I might even bump it up to under 6.5. But the last 5 games have gone under the number at 5.5. So Rangers at Jets are getting great odds right there. You've got two of the best goaltenders in Igor Shesterkin and Connor Hellebuck. And again, sometimes these offensive groups kind of go streaky and you don't know what you're going to get out of them. So bet on the defensive side of things. Rangers Jets under 5.5 +100. I'm also going to go to that Golden Knights Canadiens game. Take the over 6.5. If they're giving me +100 at over 6.5, I'm taking it every single time. The last 9 games have gone over the number between these two clubs. So Golden Knights Canadiens, that's the second pick of the night. And Flip, I don't know about you, but
Okay.
I've been very underwhelmed with Connor Bedard's presence right now for the Chicago Blackhawks. I thought he would
Interesting.
come in. I thought he would absolutely, maybe
Interesting.
not absolutely dominate, but at least put on a couple of good shows out there. I know there's been some frustrations offensively, not getting the puck in the back of the net as much as he would like, but
Okay.
that's where I'm going to with my lock of the night. Lock of the night, Connor Bedard over 1.5 points in this matchup against the Arizona Coyotes. He hasn't had a multi-point game yet in the NHL. We're already 9 games in for the Blackhawks or 8 games in for the Blackhawks. And I just want to see Connor Bedard go out there and fire the puck. And he's either going to be burying a couple of goals or he's going to be assisting his teammates out there against the Coyotes. So Rangers, Jets under 5.5 +100 is my first pick. Golden Knights Canadiens over 6.5 +100 is my second pick. And the odds aren't out right now, but the lock of the night is Bedard over 1.5 points.
It's interesting that he goes 4 shots on net against the Leafs, no shots on net against the Avs. 2 shots on net against the Knights, no shots on net against the Bruins. To me, this is just a young kid finding his game, and I think you and I had mentioned a bad team in Chicago and a
Yeah.
weak overall squad is going to impact the ability. Him playing in Regina, that team was a wagon. He ran that league, and I understand 5 points in 8 games is, I think, pretty much right on par with what we would have expected in terms of offensive production. But I love your take on you haven't seen him take over the game yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not saying that it's been disappointing or that we're ready to write him off in any sense.
No.
But I love this take, and you're bringing up a really interesting point, and maybe that's something that we can bank on, and I like that you're doing it. You know it's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
So I like that you're banking on it here. I love this angle, Steele. Good take. And hey, another fire episode. Like, let's go.
Absolute fire episode to start off the new week, new
Hey.
month as well. We're a couple days away from November.
Oh.
How crazy is it that we're almost in 2024 already? It's this year has absolutely flied by, just like the rest of them, it seems like. But thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time is when you can find all of our episodes. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day out there. Good luck with all your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.